Well, who hasn't heard of STÖK? If you're a bug bounty hunter, you probably know him as a good vibes hackfluencer. But STÖK travels the world and vlogs about bounty life. He's the creator of the popular curated bug bounty news resource, Bounty Thursdays, as he calls it. He has video production skills. He definitely has the coolest looking videos out there of all the hackers I've seen. As you can see right here, his backdrop is way cooler than mine. He's a great interviewer. So I'm a little bit nervous about interviewing him. It's the other way around. And he's also the founder of a sustainable, fair vegan shop called Thrive Store, which you can check out at thrivestore.se. But you know what? Because of his success, or your success, I guess, because I'm talking to you, as a hackfluencer and your humble attitude, I think that a lot of people maybe don't realize how technically experienced you actually are. I've been doing some stalking, and I noted that you've done over 45,000 hours as a professional IT consultant and systems architect. Like, it takes, according to that rule, it takes 10,000 hours to be a master. So I guess that makes you a quadruple master. And when it comes to bug bounties,
not even close.
When it comes to bug bounties, you've been recognized and rewarded by some very tough bounty programs, including Salesforce, Microsoft, Verizon Media, the Department of Defense, HackerOne, the actual program, I'm guessing, and Dell, and many, many others. And you've got a manifesto that I love. Do you want to say your manifesto? You should say it.
Creators going to create, hackers going to hack, good vibes only.
That's it. Creators going to create, hackers going to hack, and you're both. So you're hacking and you're creating. Did I miss anything?
No, I think that's all good. I'm pretty much humbled by the whole experience. It's not always that you take that route down the memory lane. Specifically lately, I've been trying to stay very, very present in the now, and so it feels like all these things that's been accumulated over the years, right? Knowledge and life and everything. You know, I'm 42. I'm turning 43 later this year. So 45,000 hours doesn't seem that much, but if you've been in the industry for 25 years and working professionally as a consultant, it kind of adds up. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. 45,000 hours doesn't seem like much. That seems like a lot to me. So just before we were chatting, and you said something just before we started recording, you said you've been doing a lot of internalizing recently. So what did you mean by that? I'm super interested in that. And especially because you just said you're staying in the present and you're being in the now. Do you want to chat about that a little bit?
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. I've always liked the whole concept of self-realization or improvement of, you know, I want to feel better. I have a history of mental health issues where I'm just not feeling good, and I figured that I needed to just deal with that in certain ways, and it goes in periods, right? I used to live in Bali and did a lot of cool stuff there. I traveled the world, and I realized that even though I'm doing all this amazing stuff, I'm still depressed. What's the reason why? And I just and then I realized that it has nothing to do with any kind of external situation. It all comes from inside. So I need to work deeply on whatever made me feel that way that I'm feeling, and take responsibility of all my actions and own that. So when I'm talking about self-realization and internalizing, it's me just going deeper and deeper and relaxing and letting shit go that's been with me through the years. That's what I do.
And are you using any kind of resources to assist you in that journey? Are you reading any books at the moment, or is there anything in particular that spurred that on, like recently? Or
I've been. There's this author called Michael Singer. He's written a book called Untethered Soul. It's a spiritual book, and Yeah, it just resonates a lot to me because I've been studying up on religion for years, and I just like kind of what it does to people. And but he describes like part Hinduism, parts other stuff, and just connect it to, in such a great way where I can just resonate with. So I love that. And then I'm back again at listen to Dr. Wayne Dyer's things and the whole Hay House stuff. It's all hip as shit, but I enjoy it. It just fills me with empowerment, and I like it.
Yeah, me too. I love it. My favorite book of all time. And man, you know, like I kind of I cringe when I have to say the title, but it's called The Power of Now, right? And it's a really
Tolle's book.
What's that?
That's Eckhart Tolle's book.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And actually the first book of his I read was the one that came after that, because I didn't know there was like a prequel, but it was, what's it called now? I'm blanking on the name of the book. A New Earth.
So Living in
A New Earth.
New Earth is the follow.
But yeah, both books basically the same concept. But that book was kind of the start of my, I guess, self-development, self-growth kind of thing. And since then, I'm just obsessed with it. And I feel like every step that I take, every book that I read, I'm like getting to be a better person. So I am super into it. But yeah, I'm aware that like a lot of people, you say self-help or self-development and they just switch off and they're like, no, it's all BS. But it's so not. If you surrender to the message that these books are saying, a lot of them, some of them I don't like so much, but a lot of them have just got a message that you need to hear. And I'll definitely check that out. So Untethered Soul is the one that you mentioned. And yeah, I'm definitely going to read that. So thank you. That's cool.
It's a small book. He just describes things easily, and he's allowing well. You know, he's doing his work, and there's profound knowledge in there. If you haven't been deep into spirituality, but just understanding that this monkey brain, the shatter that just constantly going on inside your head, telling you that you're not good enough, that you're an imposter, or whatever stuff that this kind of thingy always tells you. That's not you. You are the observer of those thoughts. That's the whole thing, and it helps you along the way where people like aren't used to that kind of hippie shit spirituality, ego death kind of thingy. But it's an easy way for you to just fall into that, and I like it. It helps me a lot. And I always need to be reminded about this because I go into steep periods of self-realization and where I'm like, okay, I'm going to study this. I'm doing all this stuff and I'm feeling really, really good. And then I just forget about it because something else comes in or I get stuck at work or all these other things or I'm stressed because blah, blah, blah. And I just need to always center myself and go back into being that because we all have different life purposes, right? We don't know most people at least don't know where their main purpose is. But as soon as you start to use like the thing that I've been doing with Bounty Thursdays and all the content that I create, I do it primarily for the reason of serving others, making sure that other people have a chance to, you know, get the kind of stuff that I didn't have the possibility to get when I was 40 years old, sitting in my back at my family's house, right, and just fiddling around with BBSs and token ring networks and playing around with that because that wasn't available for me. Hacking today is available everywhere, and the kind of content that just constantly just floods the market or InfoSec Twitter or internet or where you are. It's in an abundance, and I want to be a part of that. I want to give back to all the things that I learned to be able to get this next generation have a little bit easier step in, remove gatekeeping.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of my next questions was going to be, why do you create? But I guess that's exactly why, right? That basically sums up the whole thing. So I love that. Hey, let's go back a little bit, back to younger STÖK. So maybe a little bit about your childhood, your school life, any like early jobs that you had, all that kind of thing, just to like give us an idea of how you grew into this person that you are now.
Oh, cool. Yeah, absolutely. I'm born and raised on the west coast of Sweden, and I've always been living on a house on a gravel road. That's kind of how I was born and raised, on the countryside, and quite early I got into computers, primarily because, hey, my dad used to work with DS90 Unix systems, and he did all that kind of stuff. So at early age, I always had access to computers. I can't remember what age I was when I got my first Amiga, but that kind of led me into the gaming thing, and then playing around with, I never got into assembler, but a lot of my friends did. And I went to all these copy parties, and so that was a part of the things that I did. But I primarily used Amiga for creating kind of stuff and playing around with it, games primarily. But I also loved skateboarding, right? Skateboarding was a huge part of my life. But when you live in the last house on a gravel road, there's no asphalt, no concrete around. So my parents built this carport, and a carport isn't that big, but the hours that I invested in standing, practicing ollies on that, and just because there was nowhere to just practice skateboarding. Eventually, I got my parents to help me out to build a mini ramp on the back end, so I can actually just expand that bit. And eventually, concrete and asphalt came to town, and we got a little piece of area to skate around on. So yeah, definitely, skateboarding and computers has been a big part of my life since day one.
Isn't it interesting how those things find you? Like, how would you have gotten into skateboarding if you couldn't skateboard? You know what I mean? But somehow it finds you, doesn't it? Like your passions they just come out of the woodwork.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole thing, right? You find something and you fall immensely in love with it, and you can't stop thinking about it, and then you obsess about it, and eventually you get to the stage where, okay, this is part of my identity now. You find other people that do the same thing, and you try to look up stuff, and it doesn't matter what you do. Like, I know you used to be, or maybe you still are, a trumpet player. That passion for music woke you up one day and said, like, oh my God, I need to do this. I can't stop doing it. I have to do it. And then we end up where we are.
That's it. That is exactly what it is. And sometimes we can't explain the decisions or whatever that have led us there, but it just happens, doesn't it? So you basically, you grew up in a small Swedish town on the west coast of Sweden, on a dirt road, and you were really into computers and skateboarding. What happened then? Did you do any training, any certifications?
When I was about, so since my dad worked with computers, he was never home, right? He was always, he was a salesperson too. So he was traveling salesman when it comes to installing all these Unix systems and doing that. So I kind of missed him a lot because he was on the road all the time. So I decided at quite an early stage, when I was supposed to, you need to decide what you want to work with. And I said, fuck no, I'm never going to work with computers because that's what my dad did. Right. And he was never around. He was around though. He's not one of those fathers that wasn't around, but he wasn't around to the extent that I needed him to be around. Like, I wanted him to be there more because I love my dad, right? But, he apparently had to do work and stuff like most people do. So I'm like, I'm never going to do computers. That's not going to be my thing. I'm going to do something totally different. And so I studied to be a chef for 3 years because I wanted to do something else, some extremely practical work too. Because even though I'm a kind of half smart person, I'm not super smart, but in school I struggled with a lot of different kind of stuff like math and stuff. But as soon as computers and science and stuff came in, I got the best score in those because that interested me. Yeah. I didn't know then that what I actually had was ADHD, and so of course I was struggling with things that didn't interest me, but the things that I really was interested in, I excelled at. So it was a big difference. So school was a hard struggle for me. It wasn't something that I liked doing. I'd rather skateboard and do computers with my friends. So when I finished my education, it was my last day of school. The next day was the last summer break, and then eventually, you have to start working, right? It's the last season. The last day of school, one of my hacking friends, Nemesis, called up, and he was working together at a company with another guy called Madman, and those guys were working there. And he said, "Okay, so Stök, we want you to start work here. Could you start tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Cool." Yeah, I'll do that. And that's how I just got into working with that instead, because, hey, I studied to be a chef for the fun of it. I never worked as a chef. I went straight into IT business. And since then, yeah, I started a business with my dad and did consulting and built computers and did all that stuff. So, yeah. No, I've always had computers around me, and I always had a entrepreneur mindset. So, yeah.
And do you keep up the cooking tradition now? Like, do you love cooking at home and everything, or?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome.
Absolutely. I'm passionate about food, and you have to be that, because I'm vegan. And if you're not passionate about food as a vegan, you fucking die, because it's like, what do you have? Do you gonna have a salad today too? So, I'm really into Indian and Asian food and all that spicy food and flavors, and so, because that's a creative process for me. I love creating dishes and creating food and replicating. I never follow a recipe though. I get inspired by recipes by reading them first and just getting all the ingredients. Then it just flows for me.
Yeah. Well, I think not many people know this, but I'm also a vegan, and at least in what I eat, totally 100% plant-based for like 3 years now, I think. But everyone's got a story. So, Stök, why did you go vegan?
My wife has been vegan for the last like 22 years or so. So in the beginning, since I'm born and raised a hunter's son, right? So I was living on the countryside, hunting, and it was always some kind of animal just hanging in the carport where I was skating, because that was a part of that process of living on the country. So the reason why I turned vegan eventually was animal rights and health reasons. I just realized that my ADHD got better when I removed animal products and milk products and sugar from my diet, and then I stick with it. I started to feel better, and then my taste buds switched around, because in the beginning I'm like, vegan food. Can't eat vegan food. That's I don't like that at all. I want big steaks and potatoes and sauces. That's what I eat. Yeah. Manly food. And then eventually me and Sarah, we've been together for 15 years now, and she's very, very strict with what she's eating, right? So I always need to cook 2 dishes. And so it's one meat dish for me and one strictly vegan dish for Sarah, different frying pans and all that stuff. And eventually I got lazy, right? So I started to eat her food. And I realized that, I can't eat crappy food, so I need to spice it up and play around with it. And then I started to study how can you actually make amazing vegan food. And that was the trail, and it takes a couple of weeks, right? In the beginning, you're like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but like any habit, it takes 21 days. After 21 days, my taste buds changed, and my lifestyle has changed, and I started to feel more empathetic and feeling better. And I'm like, there's no chance for me going back again. There's no chance.
Yeah, man, that sums it up. Hey. It just takes a little bit of effort, and then I feel like you're free forever. It's crazy. Man, we could talk about that for hours. There are so many reasons to go vegan, but I think let's pick another tack now. I think so. One thing that I really wanted to talk to you about, because we had that call the other day, and we're chatting kind of about the whole COVID-19 thing that's going on right now, and a bunch of hacking conferences were cancelled, which is obviously like a massive part of your life, and a lot of other people as well, and live hacking events, things like that. They're all canned. So How are you dealing with that?
Look, in the beginning, I guess that because that's the thing, right? And I quit my job in November just to go on the circuit for a year, right? And I had like, I don't know, 7 to 9 live hacking events planned. And the thing that you don't understand with a live hacking event, it seems like there's just a couple of days people getting together, but usually 2 weeks before the event happens, there's going to be a scope release. And then you do almost like nothing. They just eat, sleep, and function on that scope for 2 weeks, all in. Then you get to the event, and then you're socializing, engaging with the client, and making sure the customer is happy. The program people needs to be engaged, and then you're hacking for like 2 more days, and you're switching time zones and doing all that stuff. So, and what I usually do, I have to go like a week early because I need to acclimatize. I'm older now. I can't just be up all night, and because it drains me emotionally. So I know that I need to be early as well. So I need to go to the city, need to know places where I can get good, sustainable food, like all that stuff needs to be taken care of for me. And so that means that I'm going to need somewhere about 3 weeks for a live hacking event. Just that's the time it's going to take, because after the event, I'm going to need 1 week just to be alive, because you're so drained after doing something constantly 24/7 for like 2.5 weeks maybe, that the week after you need a week to relax. And I realized with 7 live hacking events, that's going to be like, I can't get like 6 months off from work. That's not going to be possible because it's not doable, right?
Yeah.
So instead I decided to resign after a lot of years, and I've been working in that industry at that particular company for I think like 17 years or so, and I needed to do something else and start my own business, because I want to have this more creative lifestyle where I can create stuff, share stuff, and be of service to others. But I wasn't able to do that with a full-time job. You know how hard it is to create content and be a full-time employee and be a parent and all that stuff. So for me, I needed to find a way to do it differently. Then COVID happens. So all my dreams and all my stack, my schedule, everything, just like this. There we go. It's gone. You need to reset. So the first, I would say the first month of, let's say January, February, March. I'd say March is where it really started to take off, right? And I started to realize that I fucked up, because my sustainable business is going down. I don't have any paycheck anymore. There's no live hacking events for me to attend. There's an uncertain future. What am I supposed to do? And I got really, really worried. And realized that, okay, there's 2 ways we can do this. There's either me just going belly up and say, I hate everyone. I hate COVID. I'm going to be angry about this. I feel injustice. Why is this happening to me? Or I could just accept it and just embrace the situation and say, what can I do with it? What would be the next path for me? And that's where Bounty Thursday was born. And I started to creating more content and making sure that people in this space, in this time, get some kind of good vibes in their lives, because it's not a lot of good vibes going on. So I'm going to be an advocate for the good times. And if I can do that and just share that, because if you don't, it's like whatever you have is what you're going to give up. If you are angry and resentful and sad, that's what you're going to give up. But if you're happy and loving and caring, that's what you're going to give up too. And I felt like I needed to focus on just being very, very strong in the positive set to deliver. And so far it's been good. You know, my shops are still around. Epic, Go Sustainable Fashion. I'm still having my studio, and I'm not earning a lot of money on YouTube, but I'm getting some bounties here and there. And you know, people are supporting my work, and I like that. So I'm having more of an artist lifestyle right now. It's not a rich lifestyle, but it's a creative one, and I love it.
Maybe not financially rich, but everything else rich, hey?
Oh, 100%. And in the long term, it's going to be financially rich as well. So
yeah. Well, speaking of your kind of you as a creative, and I know we talked about this last time we spoke a little bit as well, but obviously I'm just starting out with this YouTube channel where this video is going to be. And I don't know, I might take this audio and make it like a podcast or something as well. I've been toying with that idea a little bit, but basically it takes courage to start things, right? Whenever you start something new, whenever there's any change in your life, there is some fear that's attached to that. And I'm just really curious to know, how do you overcome that fear of starting and just do it?
I don't have a amazing answer to that than just the real pure fact of actually just doing it. It sounds so simple, but as soon as you realize that, and this is also going to sound like maybe like hypocrite, but whatever people's opinion are about me are not of my concern. Because that's the thing. It's all opinions. Nobody knows my background. They don't know what I did before. They have nothing. And the only thing they have to express that is through a comment on the internet. And in the beginning, one single comment could just rip my heart out and step on it because they... Maybe I like the Tom Nom Nom video, for instance, that I did on Vim. That's 40 hours of pure editing just to do that. And that's a lot of hours invested. And people don't really understand how much it goes into creating this kind of stuff. It's not something you wake up and just do it. If you're doing editing and you're playing around with multiple camera angles and different audio sources and all that stuff, you know, every step it just stacks up. Yeah. So for me, it's all about, usually it's, I need to tell myself it's good enough. And you just start doing it and you just practice along the way, because the experience should be the one that you're learning along the way. Like nobody turns into this. Let's compare it to unicycling, right? If you have a unicycle and you just get on it and you fall off, it's like, no, it's not for me. I couldn't juggle 8 balls and all that stuff and unicycle at the same time, so it's not for me. That's kind of not how life works, right? You try it and like, oops, oh, I fell off, funny, cool, I'm going to try it again. It's one of those things that people say that, and if you try it once or a couple of times, people say, no, maybe that's not for you. Maybe you shouldn't try. There's no kid in the history that never ever had been told that, okay, maybe you should stop trying to walk. Maybe that's a good thing. Don't walk anymore. Maybe that's not for you. Because we all try until we succeed. So for me, I had to have that realization that everything people say is just opinions. They have nothing to do with me, and I'm just going to create my stuff for the sake of creating. And then I did it.
Wow, that's powerful stuff, man. I just love that. And that's something that I've been thinking about and actually talking about a lot recently, is just like starting and not overthinking things. I can't remember where I saw it, but a while back I saw something or read something or heard something. I can't remember. I consume a lot of stuff, but somewhere I heard this thing that was like, if you want to overcome a fear, the best way to do it is to say 3, 2, 1 and then do it. And that's something that I kind of try and live by now. And it works in a very literal sense. Like if you want to jump off like a high edge into some deep water, it's still scary because you're jumping off a high ledge. But like if you just count down, there's something magical about counting down and being like, when I get to the bottom of this countdown, I'm just going to do it. You know, it's like making a pledge to yourself, something like that. Anyway,
but that's true. You know, I just want to. I want to continue this conversation, though.
Yeah,
we're
not done with it, man. This is your interview.
Because when it's and one thing that I really got inspired by when it's that fear, like fear. I used to be a very fearful person. I was afraid of everything. You know, I've struggled with social phobia, depression, anxieties. I couldn't go to the movies, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't be in social circles with people, and I had all these, a lot of stuff that was going on, and it was all fear-based. And it had to do with certain things in my life that got triggered by this thing that made me just afraid for certain stuff. And it could be as simple as somebody saying that, I don't know, I'm not a singer, but let's say that I try to sing and somebody says, oh man, stop that. That sounds awful. That's one of those things that is going to stick in you. So what you do is that's going to get an emotional response, like, okay, so maybe I shouldn't sing, you know, maybe I'll just not do that. But your heart sings, so you just want to express yourself, and so but you're kind of domesticated with that thing that somebody told you that you're not good enough for whatever reason. So what I usually do when I have that fear, like you do 3, 2, 1, I realize that what actually is, I'm very tense. Like my shoulders are probably up here, and I'm like, I'm not really feeling it. So what I do is that I just breathe in, and I relax, and I let the shoulders come down, and I relax the heart. And you can't relax the heart because it's just going to do its thing all the time. But you can relax a muscle next to it, and then you just breathe in. Feel that breath in your belly and just relax again and say, okay, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. Because you can't do it in the hyper state. In the lockdown state, everything is going to be fearful. But if you let it go and you do it, and then it's going to be a cognitive behavioral therapy kind of moment where you're trying it and it wasn't that bad, right? La, 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 la. I still can't sing, but I could try.
Yeah. Yes. And then every kind of moment that you have where you're not receiving negative criticism, or even when you are, but you realize actually it doesn't affect your life at all and it doesn't make that much difference and it's not a big deal receiving rejection or negative criticism or whatever, you're training yourself to be resilient to that fear in all areas of your life.
It's muscle memory. It's all about, you know, you don't build a biceps in one day, right? It takes work. And so it's, definitely.
That's it. All right. There's one thing I noticed and I'm super curious to ask. I was looking through your store, your online store, thrivestore.se, if anyone else wants to look. And I was scrolling through some of the menswear, and I saw that you are the model for some of the like t-shirts. I saw one particular t-shirt. It's like a 3/4 sleeve one. Yep. And I've never noticed before, maybe because your camera angle is usually like how it is now, but you've got tattoos on your arms, and I really like the design of them. Yeah. Yep. So I feel like most people, when they get tattoos, they have some kind of story behind what they mean or some period in their life. Do you have any story like that?
Oh yeah, sure. These are protections. This is the Shri yantra for wealth, and this is the Kali yantra for spiritualism. They are yantras that are supposed to be meditated upon. I also got tattoos and protections on my feet in white ink and all that hippie shit to just make sure that I'm a sacred person. I'm a spiritual person, and I have all these different kind of religious tattoos on my body to just protect me and help remind me of certain things. So yeah, they're spiritual tattoos. Wow,
that is really cool. I love that. See, every single person that has tattoos, they have some kind of story behind it. And I think they always say a lot about who the person is, like what the tattoo is, because if you're going to get something on your body for the rest of your life, it's got to be something that deeply resonates with you, I think. So yeah, that's really cool. All right. A bit of a generic question, but we've spoken a lot about kind of, personal growth. And we've spoken about veganism, and we've spoken about like mental health and getting through depression and overcoming fear. But what drives you to do bug bounties in particular? What is it about that particular niche that got you hooked, or that's driven you to kind of create content in that space and kind of be a hacker in that space as well?
Wow. I guess I should say something like, I love the challenge, or I want to protect the internet and that kind of stuff. But it's not really. I used to love black box testing and the whole troubleshooting. And then eventually, if you find something, you'll get immensely rewarded for it. And I think that it's also like a really, it's such a cool thing that you know, if I could tell the 14-year-old Frederick sitting there with his computer and doing all that stuff, it's like, dude, do you know what? In 2018, you're going to enter a space with some amazing hackers. And what you're allowed to do is to hack on some of the hardened targets out there. You're going to be able to hack on some of the biggest companies. And you are not going to be in risk of going to jail. And there's a big chance that you actually get rewarded for the stuff that you find. And you can just go at it. You can hack them. And I'm like, no, dude, that doesn't seem right. Because that's the thing that drives me, is that I have the allowance to do it. I'm allowed to do it. And the way I look at bug bounties and try to explain it to people is like, so what are bug bounties? And I usually say, like, imagine this for a second, that that you are willing, you got this big box, a puzzle box, like a box with a puzzle in it. You don't know how many pieces it is. And it's, and when you open it up, you can see all these pieces here. And you have that, usually a picture on the front of the puzzle box, right? But it's no picture there. You have no idea what you're looking at, but you got a lot of pieces. And then you're going to start to sort all these kind of pieces out. And you have to put the pieces together upside down. You're not allowed to see what they resemble. So you kind of need to figure out, okay, maybe this is a little bit like that and a little bit like that. And eventually you will find the pieces that are missing, because there's going to be some pieces missing. And when you identify and find those pieces, that's when you get the reward. So it's putting a puzzle together upside down, and then eventually when you open up, you're going to see like, oh crap, I really messed that up because I have no idea what I was doing, but I found a certain thing here and a certain thing there that kind of matches. So I love the puzzling, the troubleshooting, the understanding, the learning process. That's why I like the idea of falling in love with a program. I wish I could Mayflower stuff and just try a little bit. I know you're definitely one of those hackers that get bored after 2 minutes. Like, okay, next I'll try that one, maybe that one. What does my recon say? What that happened? I, on the other hand, love to spend weeks and weeks and weeks on the same target, just learning the process, seeing what's going on, making a bit of notes, falling back again, and that's because that's eventually. I'm not a great hacker. I'm just a beginner in this space. But I have a lot of years in infrastructure design and internal pen testing on that stuff. But I've done that for so many years that I'm bored of it. So this is a new area where I'm like, oh, I'm challenging myself. I get to learn how to understand code better. I get to understand how to build a little bit of automation. I get to understand how these new techniques works together and eventually find anomalies. Right. And that's what I'm doing. I love that. I prefer this kind of no idea what's going to happen approach where you step into a room and you're just like, what the fuck's going on? Like first time you enter one of those, you enter one of those escape rooms, right? I love that. The puzzling experience. That's what bounties is for me.
Yeah. And the thing about bug bounties too is like you might put that puzzle together or whatever, and then actually you get halfway through it and you realize half the pieces are not even there, or some of the pieces are from a completely different puzzle.
And you turn around and you're like, oh crap, that's supposed to be like a horse running next to water, but half of it is just a train, right? So you didn't figure that one out right. And that's the challenge. I love that idea of black box testing, and because it forces me to think creatively, fully creatively. I need to think of new ways. Yeah,
me too. And one thing you touched on, I really resonated with when you said that you can just, if you told like, you know, teenager you, oh yeah, soon in the future, you're going to be able to hack like a lot of major tech companies, and they'll pay you to do it, and you're not going to go to jail, and it's totally cool. In fact, they want you to do it. And it would have been like, what? No. And also, there are so many more resources now on how to hack, how to get started. Like, a lot of people coming into to hacking now, I don't think they realize how much that makes a difference. Because I remember when I first started getting interested in hacking, I couldn't find really anything good online about how to get started or whatever. And I think even in those times, if people were posting hacking tutorials or like things like that online, it would have kind of probably been frowned upon, right? Because the whole perception of hackers has changed a lot since then. Since in the last couple of decades, it's changed a lot. And all of a sudden, it's like an amazing thing to do. And most people are pretty switched on about that. When I talk to people about, being a hacker, just some random that's not involved in tech at all, they're like, oh yeah, cool. Like my best friend's cousin's, wife is a penetration tester. And yeah, I understand. Like they get that it's a thing and that it's important. And yeah, I just think that is so cool. So like, it's, first of all, it's become more accepted. Second of all, there's more resources out there. And third of all, now you can literally just sign up for a bug bounty platform and start getting experience by hacking like the biggest tech companies in the world. It's absolutely insane. And I think we got into bug bounties for the same reason.
Dan, I love the challenge, but I also love the money. People say that, okay, so you're a beginner, maybe you should start doing some VDPs. I say, fuck VDPs, don't do that. Just go straight for the hardest targets with the biggest payouts, because then your return of investment is going to be so much better than it would be for you to just sending that random bug in where nobody's just really interested in what you're doing. Go for the ones that seriously are the contenders, the players that are willing to pay for your time. Because otherwise you're going to be one of those guys that just grind away, you dupe out, and it's going to be boring, because you have to have that incentive of always striving and getting forward. So I would say that, and whatever, and this is my recommendation for anyone. And I still don't really know how fully XXSs work, but I'm really good at blind XXEs, and I'm really good at race conditions, because those are the things that I decided to invest all my time in. Yeah. Does that make me a lesser of a hacker because I don't understand JavaScript? Yeah, maybe in some sense, in a developer sense, but in the payout sense, it doesn't, because I only go for criticals.
Yeah, I guess that's so true, isn't it? Like, specialization in bug bounties is possible, but not just specialization as in, I specialize as a hacker within the IT industry. It's like, I specialize in this one vulnerability type, which is a niche of the, bug bounty world, which is a niche of the cybersecurity world, which is a niche of the IT world, which is a niche of like industry in general. It's like, you can focus down as hard as you want, and you can be an absolute specialist in whatever you want. And that actually pays well if you pick a good niche, which is crazy. It's crazy. Like, if you're employed as a penetration tester, you can't do that. You have to be a generalist. And you have to kind of like, you have to learn a lot of stuff. I mean, I don't want to be taken the wrong way saying this either, because I feel like being a generalist is also really good. But
it's really good.
You have the opportunity to be a specialist. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
it's all up to the person and what drives them, right? I know you had this conversation the other day on your YouTube channel, where this is going to end up, where you talked about that people should just do things that they like, right? And I just like that, because the other one was too hard for me. It was a struggle. I wasn't interested. So you need to learn all that kind of stuff, but I really don't want to do that, because I like burp and I like to do that stuff. Then I decided that I don't care what other people think. I'm going to do the things that I'm good at, and I'm going to enjoy that as much as possible, because the whole learning process is so much fun when you're having fun and not forcing yourself, because this can easily turn into work. And that's why I in the beginning, I used to, when I quit my job, I used to do this for a couple of weeks where I'm like, okay, so I'm going to do bounties today, blah, blah, blah. And then I just ended up back in doing it once a week again, maybe twice, just because it has to be that thing that it gives me joy. I'm doing it because I love doing it, not because I have to.
Yeah, man, that's totally the ADHD thing coming out, isn't it? And it's so funny because I interviewed Casey Ellis, which is also on my channel. I interviewed him like a few days ago, and he is like a self-proclaimed. I don't know if he's ever been, gone to a doctor and they've said that he's got ADHD, but he said, "Oh yeah, I've got ADHD." And now you're saying you've got ADHD. But all of the symptoms that were described of ADHD by both you and Casey made me think, maybe I've got ADHD as well. It explains my experience in school. It explains my experience with university. It explains my experience with bounties and music and everything. It's just like, I think a lot of people probably would be diagnosed as having ADHD now, but I think it's a gift in so many areas. And if you're an ADHD person in a non-ADHD job, then you're going to be miserable as. But if you're an ADHD person following what you're passionate about, oh my gosh, you're limitless. It's like a total gift, because you're going to have this like bounding like passion for what you're doing, and you just can't get enough of it, and you get obsessed, and like that's when you really start mastering things that when you're passionate about it, you can truly master it, because you can sit down for 10,000 hours and smash it and like enjoy the process along the way. Anyway, I feel like I'm taking over your interview here.
No, it's not. It's an interaction. This is it. This is what we do. Non-neurotypicals.
I wanted to ask you, because I'm curious to see what you think about this. Actually, I'm curious to see what a lot of people think about this, because bug bounties are new, right? When like in comparison to cybersecurity or other areas of IT, bug bounties are very new. Crowdsourced security as a service is a pretty new concept. So I feel like all the platforms and all the programs are still figuring it out. Like it's going really well, but we're still figuring out some of the kinks. And what I want to know is where we're headed, because I think like some fundamental things will probably change. I don't know what, I wish I did, but where do you think bug bounties are going to be headed in the next 5 or 10 years?
Oh, that's a hard question. Since I'm not a part of the industry, I'm not working in the industry for any of the major companies. I'm just a contributor of, I don't know. I'm a part of the community, a part of this, the whole scene. I think there's a, I don't know if it's possible, but let's imagine that one day. Like, okay, so the pen testing industry is $1 billion industry. It's real, real big. There's a lot of people working in there, and there's a lot of money. Of course, bounty people want to kind of move into that space. We've seen that with both HackerOne and with BugCrowd, the next generation pen testing and that kind of stuff. And for me, personally, I don't think that pen testing replaces bounties. A bounty doesn't replace pen testing. These are things that go hand in hand and should be treated as such. And I would say that the industry, or I hope the industry is going to be around. I hope that bounty payouts going to be a bit higher, and I hope that companies are going to mature a bit. So you don't, because if you're used to a certain kind of pen testing and you step straight in to bounties, life's going to be really hard for you. I realized that working on immature programs that they aren't ready for what kind of onslaught that happens with bounties. And of course there's going to be a lot of noise, but there's also going to be a lot of creativity. And you want to be able to attract the hackers that actually add value. So it has to be that kind of value engaging thing, just like some of the bigger programs do. They incentivize this with challenges or bonuses and certain stuff. Because if I have a smorgasbord, like a buffet of programs to choose from, and some of them said, "Hey, STÖK, we want you to come here and look at this. We'll pay you for your services," and that's just going to engage me more, because it seems like people think that it's going to be the other way around. Like there's going to be a saturated area with all these hackers and all this stuff. Yeah, but if you want value, if you want some of the people to invest time on your stuff for free, because we're working for free until we find something. And if you want that to work out, it has to be a balance. So I think what's going to happen in the next 5 years or so, it's such a young industry. But I think that it's going to be a little bit more like narrowing it down a bit. Maybe some programs run out. Maybe some will be stronger. Maybe, I'm hoping at least that platforms going to grow and keep on being able to be sustained and not just be startup money and that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I'm just hoping the industry will be around, because it's a really fun ride at the moment. And but since I'm not working in the industry, I can't say yay or nay. But I'm hoping that the symbiosis is going to be good between pen testing and bounties, that both industries see that they all need each other to incorporate. Because some of the best bounty hunters that I know are pen testers, and vice versa.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. There's no competition there. I think that both are important too, for different reasons. Yes.
So what do you think? I want to know what you think. What do you think?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's tough. I'm not sure, but I think payments will increase. Like you were saying, you hope happen. I really think it's going to happen, and I see it happening already, actually. But that's because bug bounties are going from this thing that were an experiment to this thing that's like, okay, this works now. Like, we've shown the value of this now. And programs, bounty programs, there's a bounty program for pretty much every major tech company in the world, right? Whether it's paid or not is a different story. But there aren't many major tech companies that are starting bounty programs and then stopping them. So that means that the experiment is not an experiment anymore. It's out of beta, and it's chugging along, and it's something that's adding value to these companies. And I think that, payments are going to keep increasing, and they already are increasing, but they're going to keep increasing because major programs or all programs are going to realize the value of bounty programs more and more and more. And, getting a pen test is amazing, because you get someone who is of, at least a decent standard of a hacker to focus on your particular application or whatever it is for an extended period of time, or a period of time that you choose. And they'll find bugs probably, and you get a really nice report and everything at the end. But, bug bounties can never go away, because crowdsourcing security is so important, because the current payment model for pen tests is paying for time, and the payment model for bug bounties is paying for results, right? So pen tests are going to find a lot of stuff that a bug bounty program might not find, because you've got someone that has to look at that program, no matter how uninteresting it is, no matter how, no matter how difficult the setup is to like hack it. You might need to go on a VPN and only throttle your request to one request every 2 seconds, and all of these requirements. If you're doing a pen test, you got to do it. You just have to do it. Like, you're getting paid. That's what you're getting paid to do. You know what I mean? And you get like direct communication with that one person who is doing the test. But when you're doing bug bounties, that can never go away either, because if there's a huge program that's got like 1 million hosts online, you can't just pay a pen test company to do a pen test on 1 million hosts, because like, if you pay one guy to do that, for a start, they're not going to be an expert in all of the different technologies you use. They wouldn't have enough time in their life to pen test every single host that you've got. And yeah, just like there's just like a manpower thing, right? Like you just can't when you've got a big scope. And also, yeah, like in a pen test, you can't collaborate like 5-6 different pen testers who are experts in all of those different technologies that you might use even in one application. Whereas if you're running a bug bounty program, all of the different hackers that hack on that, you might have 1,000 people on your program, and they've all come from different backgrounds. Some of them might come from web development background, an infrastructure background. They might be really good at blind XXEs like STÖK, or they might be an absolute guru at cross-site scripting on Angular apps, or something really weird like that. But guaranteed, if you're running that technology, someone that's doing bug bounties is going to find that. And yeah, so that's why that's super valuable. Yeah, I don't know honestly where bug bounties are going, and that's why I thought it was a good question to ask. But I do know that it's not going anywhere, and I know that it's only going to get better. It's going to get more exciting. I think the processes surrounding disclosure in general are going to be more standardized and more accepted across the board. And one project actually that's doing that right now is Disclose.io, which is a Casey Ellis thing, which is totally separate to Bug Crowd, but obviously it's run by Casey Ellis, who's a Bug Crowd founder. But yeah, it's a very exciting space to be in right now, because it's just developing so fast and it's so new, and all of the companies that are involved with bug bounties are like, disrupting a massive industry. And yeah, I'm super keen to just see what happens with it.
Yeah, and that's what I said. I'm going to do this for 3 to 5 years and see where this pans out. I'm just doing this for the adventure now. I'm not going to be one of those. Who knows? Maybe in a few years I'll just switch around and say bounties is shit. Who knows? I have no idea. But for now, I think it's really, really cool. One big misconception, though, is that people think that they. And it's easy for me to say because I made videos on it. Like everyone can just start and learn stuff, but it's a great real practice. It's live targets, right? If you find stuff on a live target, it's going to be a live bug. It's going to be there, and you can play around with it. But with CTF, it's kind of designed for you to be in a certain way. Finding stuff on live targets means that you can probably replicate that on other places too, if you're lucky, or maybe not. There's different kind of ways. But one thing that I realized over time is that it's not easy. People need to understand that bug bounties are hard. It takes a lot of time, effort, and grinding and understanding and investing, because you're doing it all blindly. It's black box testing. So you need to figure it out. You need to have your stuff, and you need to be able to find anomalies and understand that. And if you don't have any understanding of TCP/IP networking or any basics of IT stuff, maybe doing 5 years on a help desk is a good thing for you before you go into offensive security. The only reason why I got from 0 to 100K in a few months was primarily because I had so many years of experience of IT. Because I've been on the defending side. I've been the one protecting this, doing major cloud migration, hybrid configurations. I got so many hours in Active Directory and internal pen testing that just looking at web, I just never looked at web before. That was just the new part for me. So, okay, I'm going to look at web now. Let's poke at the perimeter. Let's do the WAF bypasses. Because I was the one putting up the WAFs. And I did it the opposite way because I realized where people cheated. I had years and years of experience of see where do people mess things up. Right. And that's the reason why I was very successful in a very short time. And it's not something that I just woke up one day and say, oh yeah, maybe this is cool. I'm just going to be really good at hacking now. It has a lot of years of experience, because experience is the thing that makes it possible for you to connect the dots. Because otherwise you just see different things. Sunglasses and phone, cool. Do they work together? No, apparently don't. But something else will. There's different things that you can connect, right? But then you have phone and charger. Oh, that connects. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. It's all about experience, and people undervalue experience a lot, I think, in bug bounties. And it's easy to, you know, like I think some influencers it's not that they're doing it on purpose, but they portray online that they're finding these bugs easily because they are, right? But what people don't see is all the hard work. It's like that old thing. I've heard people talk about this before. You know, everyone wants to be a rock star. No one wants to actually put in the practice. And they see like their idol on stage, like some singer or guitarist or whatever, and they're like, wow, they're just so naturally amazing, and they like were born that way, and I could never do that. And it's like, well, maybe if you practice for 40 years and you do like 5,000 gigs, you would be that good as well. But you know, people just
that's how it is.
And it's hard to have that perspective when all you see is someone's tweets today. It's hard to have that perspective of like their background and the work they put in when they were a kid. You know, you just never see that.
Absolutely. And I'm in no way, I just need to clarify this, I'm in no way gatekeeping. I'm inspiring people to get into this. And that's why I'm creating the content that I do. It should be easier for people to make that jump. If I can provide more content, that is going to be easier for somebody to take all these years that I have accumulated with information. I can put those in a few nuggets that makes you mentally sane and always also hungry to learn new stuff. If I can give you those, then my work here is complete, because I don't need to hold on to stuff. That doesn't matter for me. But being able to teach somebody something, you need to really know the subject, because it's hard.
Yeah. That's awesome. I just opened Twitter because I put a tweet up just before we started talking saying, if I was interviewing today, what questions would people like me to ask you? So I might read out a couple of those if you don't mind.
Oh, funny.
So Inside a PhD, or if you don't know who that is, it's Katie Paxton Fear. Yeah, she's got an awesome YouTube channel as well in the kind of hacking bug bounty space. So check her out if you haven't already. But she said, what's it like managing a hacking team? How do you approach problems like distributing bounties or collaboration? So I think she might be referring to like the
disturbance.
Disturbance team.
Mm-hmm. No, it's just like I said in my talk over at HacktivityCon. You're going to be able to see that on my YouTube channel later. Collaboration, there's a certain amount of rules that needs to be defined before you do collaboration, because you can approach it in very, very different things. Running a team or creating a team could be, it's like, there's two ways to look at it. It can be a team combined of 2 or 3 quarterbacks that play quarterback game together. They are really good at throwing the ball, and that's all they do. And if they hit something, that's great. Fun.
Yeah.
How do you, or you can say that, okay, maybe we need a quarterback, maybe we need somebody on defense, maybe we need somebody over here, and you'll change that kind of methodology around, like you're building a role-playing game kind of party. You need a medic, you need a wizard, you need somebody, and you put those people together and make sure they don't overlap work, because otherwise there will be a lot of people submitting the same kind of bugs, and it will be a dupe fest on each other, right?
Yeah.
But the most important thing is to, before you begin collaborating with somebody, is to define the rules. Like, how do we split? Is it a 50-50 split? Do we share all of the team? Or is it a 60-40 split? Let's say that the initial finder gets 60% of the cut and 40% is being distributed on the rest of the team. Or is it and how do we deal with CVEs? You know, the thing that we do with disturbance is apparently we found 0 days, and we need to be able to deal with that in the aftermath afterwards. Because if you find a CVE in a system, how do you distribute that over time? Like, do the initial finder get a percentage for every report that goes in, because that person is the initial finder? Because otherwise it's going to be salty. Like, that was my research. Why the fuck did you run that on 5,000 hosts and not share the work with me? Because I did a lot of work creating that, and that's the kind of dynamic. So it all comes down to understanding it's people, and when money is involved, you need to have that discussion prior game. And I will say that's how it is. That's my recommendation. And just have a collaborative platforms. We Trello the shit out of everything we do. We have methodologies on how we do stuff, and we collaborate and share data, and certain people do certain stuff and that kind of things. That's how we roll at the moment.
Wow. Yeah, that's really cool. And there was another really good question by Katie on a totally other topic. How do you make your videos look so pretty? What skills did you have to learn? Where did you learn them? How much of your time goes into the branding and design of your videos? So basically, how to be STÖK as a content creator.
First, as a content creator, as a STÖK, you need to have some kind of lights that gives you that look and feel to it. Because if I remove all these lights, I have a couple of lights here. I can't reach that one. But if I had this one here, that's a 45-degree angle light there. That gives a very extremely dramatic look. Now we add a little bit of backlight here, and I can change that into different kind of settings depending on what I want to create. And because, as you can see now, it's a big depth in the picture. You know, in this room you see here, I got a camera is on the other part of the room, so it gives you a huge depth, because I don't want things to be very clear in view, because I want to be the one that's in focus, right? Yeah. And then I have a couple of side lights that give me hair light and all that stuff. And this is just straight out of the camera. There's no filters here. This is the setting that's in this room. I also got some blinders. I'm able to control the full light setting in here. So there's a bunch of different stuff that I do to create the feeling that I do. And for me, have been consistent in how things look and feel. The way I post things on Twitter, the way I post things on Instagram, the way I use fonts, the way I communicate, everything is just very, very consistent about the things that I do. I wear sunglasses in each and every video. I used to have an orange hat in a lot of videos. It's just to make sure people realize, yeah, you can do that. That's amazing. And I can change them around. So I can now I do the black ones. It's a big different thing in how you do it. So yeah, of course, there's how did I learn it? I've always been interested in visual stuff. And I also been very interested in audio stuff. So for me, it's all about, it's like cooking, right? You need the flavors: salty, sweet, spicy. You need to have that bitterness, and all that stuff needs to go get together to create that umami taste. All these is all a part of that.
Nice. I love that. That's so good. That was the best answer. You know what? Like I watched a few videos on how to light YouTube video as well, basically. And I haven't really taken too much of that into account, which is quite obvious when we're juxtaposed together. But a lot goes into it. There's so much that goes into it, and it's crazy. And obviously, Katie's experienced the same thing, being a content creator herself. Mm-hmm. So there's another question, and I feel like you've kind of covered it already, but maybe just a short kind of soundbite answer. What is the secret to your positive, full-time positive vibe?
It's an active choice. I choose to be happy.
Yes. Everything's a choice, right? That is so good. I personally wanted to ask you, this is back to one of my questions. In terms of your both personal growth and growth as a hacker and growth as a content creator, or in any other way, what are some resources that have had the biggest influence on your life? So it could be books, YouTube channels, podcasts, a movie, could be anything.
I think most influential when it comes to hacking and creating stuff has to do with it's burp, right? It sounds ridiculous, but the first time I started Burp Suite and realized that I could break apart SSL traffic, and I can see what's going on, and I can see the communication between the server and the client, and I could modify it, and I could just look for anomalies in there. That was like, it was my first glance in the matrix. I'm like, oh my God, there's so much cool stuff going on here that I didn't know, because when you're sitting in a terminal doing SSH command to networking switches, you don't see that. You can see it in Wireshark in other ways, but you don't see it that way. And it's not, so that was a profound experience for me. I know, sitting next to Jobert in Franz Rosen's hotel room in Goa, and we're sitting and I'm editing videos because I'm there to
lot
vlog.
of talent in one room.
Yeah, I'm sitting there editing videos, and I used to ask Jobert, could you show me some hackety stuff? Right? He's like, yeah, check this out. And he's opened up Burp, and I said, could you check this client site that I had, because I was working for that company, and since I was kind of managing it, I gave him the approval to poke at it. So I was like, could you look at if there's anything? He's like, yeah, it's a SQL injection here. I'm like, how the fuck did you find that in that short amount of time? And I'm like, wow, that's so cool. How can I do that? And what should I do? And Franz said, well, you pick a bug class, right? You need to start somewhere. And I'm like, what should I choose? He's like, try race conditions. It's kind of down your alley. They're really hard to find. They are elusive. They come and go, and it's a puzzling mentality that you need to figure out. There's so many pieces that goes into it. Play around with that. I'm like, oh, race conditions. I'm just going to spend all the time learning about race conditions. And I did that. And my first bug was a race condition. And and that's how it is. You kind of find the thing that really interests you and falls into it. Of course, and that doesn't mean that, I do have both Franz and Jobert on speed call if I want to call them, but I don't call them for like, oh, I need help with this bug. That's not the relationship. Our relationship is friendship, not hacking thingy. So it's you don't want to burn any bridges like that by being the guy that asks all the questions all the time, because then you're not going to be the friend anymore.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's so cool. I got another funny question through. I was just looking through the questions. How do you maintain your luscious hair?
Oh, I'm having the no poo experience.
I don't really need to know myself. Not anymore, anyway. All my hair's gone.
You get there. So for me, I'm not using any shampoo, right? I'm washing my hair with something called Razul Clay. It's a clay. Razul.
Yazul.
It's a clay. Razul. Razul, I think. Razul. It's a clay. Yeah, Google it. Razul Clay.
Okay.
So it's a clay that I wash my hair with, and then every day I put coconut oil in my hair. I have some coconut oil, and I push it through, and I do that, and I rinse my hair every day. I only wash my hair like one or twice every month, and I rinse it every day, and I comb it, and I have coconut oil in it. And usually when I'm in sunnier states, it turns like really salty, and I have that surfer kind of hair.
Yeah. How much coconut oil do you use? I'm curious. My wife's used coconut oil in her hair for a while.
Not as much. I take a little bit, just rub it through my hands, just put it through because it's quite heavy, and then I squeeze it a bit, and then the natural curls just come in, and I'm just leaving it there. That's how awesome.
So there you have it. We have mastered STÖK's hair care routine. I think that should be your next video.
Yep. People actually been asking a lot about my hair and my skin and everything. And I used to have really terrible skin before. I wouldn't say terrible, not acne kind of, but it wasn't that good. But when I switched and removed all dairy products out of my diet, that all just switched. It just disappeared.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. Dairy is like the worst thing for your skin. So that was actually, I think that question was the most popular question out of all the questions. That like it had the most kind of likes and stuff on Twitter. But the one that's currently coming second, of course, it was nothing about hacking. No.
No.
It's about your hair. That's what really matters.
Yep. Love that though, because it removes me from the position of identification as being a hacker, because I am nothing but a humble human.
Yes, that is true. That is so true. It's important to uncover you as a human as well. And that's kind of what I want to do mostly on this YouTube channel, is take like hackers and then learn about them, what makes them tick at a deeper level. Because, you know, I want to know where that kind of that hacker mentality stems from, and I'm hoping that we'll see some patterns come out on when, you know, talking to some of the best hackers in the world. I'm hoping that like we start seeing patterns in their upbringing or their passions or interests or something like that. So yeah, it's cool. Anyway, the second most common, most popular question that got asked was, how do you manage to stay relevant as a content creator in an industry which is constantly changing?
ADHD. Right? I eat, sleep, and function. I saw this tweet today where somebody said something about, I think it was Sandbox Escaper, how much toxic and terrible InfoSec Twitter is. And I responded to that in a way where I'm no way, I totally I respect that. You know, it can be a harsh place, but it's up to you as the consumer to choose what you consume. Yeah. I used to have a TV at home. I don't anymore. It's been a lot of years since I had a TV set. So I choose what I consume because I want to train my mind to be consuming the stuff that are relevant for me. And as soon as I see people that are toxic, I remove them out of my feed. I'm extremely selective who I choose to follow, and I'm. Even though I'm tempted to follow certain people, because me as anyone else, I'm drawn to drama. As humans, we are drawn to drama because our egos just blow up and we're like, have all these opinions about people, and we're so ready to just, you know, keyboard warrior our opinions onto others. You just push that out like, I think this, it's my human right to have this belief. But to be honestly, you know, if you don't have anything nice to say, just don't say it. You know, it's more important to be kind than right. It's that simple. So what I do is I'm constantly, since I'm watching Twitter and all these other communication channels, what I do, I bookmark everything. And when I'm recording, let's say, a Bounty Thursday episode, that usually starts with me on Monday, like today. I'm sorting all these things that I bookmark and see what kind of resemblance do they have. Is there any way for me to create a storyline? Like how that would go from one tool to another or an event to another, and how can I piece those together? And then the second day, usually Tuesdays, I try all the tools out to verify that it's something that I can put my kind of brand name to it. Like at least I did some research on that. I don't want to be the random guy that tells you to download that CV bash script that runs a Rickroll on your computer. That's not going to happen because I read the code and I
think you should do
that. Look at. That'd be cool though. But that's something that Thug Crowd would do, and I will respect them for doing that. And I would personally just do it in another way because I don't want to misuse my influence. I want to be the one that gives you the trustworthy information, or at least I looked into it. You know, I read the code, I looked through the script. I can see that it's not mischievous in a way. And I think it's useful. And then on Wednesday, I usually record the flow, write all the things, and just edit that and publish it early Thursday morning. So it takes a couple of days to actually create this kind of content. And that's why it is relevant, because I try to find things that are, one, timeless, two, educational for long term, and something that would add value to you as a user.
Yeah. Adding value.
So that's all it is.
That's the takeaway, right? If you're a content creator, you need to add value. But by the way, you know, content creation, if you have Twitter and you've ever posted on it, you've created content. Like if you have Facebook and all you're doing is posting to your family, that's still creating content for a niche, which is your family. And I think that, you know, you mentioned that as a consumer, you kind of have the responsibility to curate the things that come into your life by, you know, muting people or whatever. But as a creator, I think you have the same responsibility. And if you're leaving crappy comments on a YouTube video or you're slagging someone out on Twitter, it's just like a crappy thing to do in general. There is no need for it ever. And definitely, I agree with you as a consumer. You know, particularly when the whole,
but that's how it is.
Yeah,
you have that. Yeah. People say that I'm a content creator, and I self-title myself like an hack influencer, and because I love the concept, because I want to inspire people to get into hacking. I want to inspire people to, from the blue side, start poking at the offensive side and just be that bridge. Because I've been doing purple teaming for a long while. You know, I was the bridge between the different kind of things because I can communicate with both sides, and just selfish self-promotion kind of thingy. But even though I don't think that I'm an influencer, I had 4.6 million impressions on Twitter in the last 90 days. That's a lot of people that consume my content and the things that I say. So I also have a lot of, for me personally, there's a lot of I'm not shit posting, because I think what I want to do is that I want to have, like, I'm following my manifesto. It's good vibes only. I rather help people when I have the time to grow as individuals than being the one that says you fucking suck, because that's just not me.
Yeah, that is awesome. All right, STÖK. Well, we could talk for hours. We could talk for weeks. But thank you so much for coming on this video call. It's been absolutely amazing, inspiring, enlightening. Let's leave the video on your manifesto. Hacker's gonna hack, creator's gonna create, and you are both, and you're amazing at both of them. So thank you so much for bringing your and good vibes only. Thank you so much for bringing your experience here and inspiring a whole wave of new hackers and new bug bounty hunters and new content creators. We love what you're doing. Keep it up. And until next time, good vibes only.
Good vibes only. See you around.
See you, man.